one of the most common mistakes that parents make when they're raising their kids that they're not even aware of is that they say, life is full of moments that shape us, and here are some of mine. Each micro moment, each big life event, everything that we love to do and the people that we spend it with are all contributing to the person that we end up becoming in each moment of our lives. And that's ever evolving depending on the experiences that we have and the perspectives that we gain, whether that's from traveling, trying a new hobby, meeting new people. We're constantly learning how to show up in this world and who we want to be, who we want to be known as, and how we want to contribute to society. It can be scary to be seen in your authentic expression, especially if you're afraid of being judged or rejected from a group. But I've learned that the more I step into being my true self and facing my fears, I've learned that being me is the greatest gift that I can give to the world. I genuinely love living this life of mine, and I just want to share every bit of it with everybody I can. And through all the exploration I've done and the passions I've pursued, it's all been leading me to something bigger. And a new chapter is unfolding, and I'm excited to share it with all of you today. Hello again, and welcome to Purely Seen. I am your host, Katie Rufino. Oh, it's fun. I feel like I have my own talk show, and kind of in a way I do, and this is also foreshadowing for the future, potentially. Anyway, today I wanted to talk a little bit more about this concept of being purely seen and introduce a little bit more as to why I transitioned into this name. I know I did talk about it in the first video, introducing Purely Seen in this new revamp of my YouTube channel. But I wanted to go deeper into it and just kind of explain a little bit more as to what it means to me and why it's important. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, being purely seen, what does that actually mean? It means, well, let's break it down. Purely and seen, and then purely seen. The reason why I chose the word purely is because my group mentorship program, the detox transformation program that I referred to in the last video, is called Pure Pathways because we are purifying our pathways or purifying our drainage pathways to help our bodies be supported in our detox process, and also purifying the path home to the true self. So it's about clearing anything in the way that's not you, that's not purely your own essence. So when it came to transitioning into this new name called Purely Seen, I wanted to use the word pure still because we are being purely seen in our authentic expression as our truest self. So purely and then seen, the seen being that we are being witnessed in that. And when I look back on my life, I think about all the different ways in which I wasn't myself and how I was being seen as Katie, but I wasn't always being seen or showing up as the purest form of myself. I might have been holding on to an idea of who I thought I was meant to be or should be, who I wanted to portray myself as, or dimming certain versions of myself or dimming certain parts of myself, and then also bringing out other parts that I thought that depending on who I was with or what I was doing, they might want to see different parts of me or not want to see different parts of me. And so this YouTube series with the Purely Seen is a way for me to, number one, practice and embody what does that even mean to be purely seen as my authentic self as I continue to express through this platform. And also, like I mentioned before too, as an invitation to invite you to also ask yourself the question and bring awareness to, am I allowing myself to be purely seen as my authentic self, or am I feeling like I need to change or alter or put this facade on of somebody I think the world wants to see, not who I actually am? Earlier today, I was on a call with my friend Lauren. I've worked with her before, and she's been a coach of mine when I first started getting into the coaching realm, and she's also a dear friend. And she invited me to her Money Expansion Club talk or monthly call. Also, it just started raining. I don't know if you can see the raindrops coming down. Maybe this is a sign to go inside. One moment. Resuming back to regular scheduled programming. I was on this call with my friend Lauren, and we were talking about success, abundance, money, all the things. And I had felt like I was feeling a little bit stuck for some reason, and I felt like I had this block. And we were chatting about what it actually means to show up in service. And she reflected back to me that it seems like in certain ways in my business and in my life that I have been coming from a place of proving myself. And this has been a theme that's come up often. And I'm even feeling a little bit of resistance even talking about it. And I don't know if it's that I'm being uncomfortable, and part of me being seen right now is, okay, like, how is the angle of the camera? How is my hair? How's my outfit? Am I showing up professionally? I'm stuttering a little bit. I feel like I'm running on my sentences and just thinking about all the things that I want to do to run away from this feeling of discomfort. The freaking rooster. Multiple roosters speaking right now, and it's just an interesting thing to practice doing these videos in one take versus stopping when it gets uncomfortable or saying, oh, I wish I could say things differently, or the way that sounds bad, I should redo it. But part of me making these videos is me challenging myself to fully in one take authentically show up in whatever way that means. Because when we're in the life, when we are in life, and whether that's we're speaking on stage or we're on a coaching call or we're having a conversation with somebody, there's no redo. There's no give me a second, let me just pause and rewind there and record that again and do it differently because I didn't like the way that it sounded. And so I wanted this expression of me to be a reflection as close to possible of true life and how I live my life, because I think that that's real and that's authentic, and that's the message I'm trying to convey. That's my intention. So that's how we're doing it. So welcome. These videos might be longer than they otherwise would be if I edited them, but I think that there's also value in what I'm expressing and sharing, so we're going with it. Anyway, here we are. I'm sorry, I can't stop just being distracted by all these rooster. In Hawaii, there's so many roosters? Plural? I don't know. Anyway, where was I? I was talking about my friend Lauren and what she was sharing and reflecting back to me about myself. So I find that with coaching and with being a PA, with, sharing my singing, like in conversation, dating, like whatever it is, I find that there's I'm sorry, this rooster. I don't know if you can hear them from my microphone, but they're so distracting. This is a real test to my patience right now. You're getting to witness it in real time. Anyway, I feel like we're in the bloopers. Oh my gosh. Anyway, being seen as my authentic self and how the ways that I would show up in life would be to prove myself that I'm worthy. And before I even get into this, let's take it way back to when I was a child. When I was a kid, I according to my parents, I got tested for my intelligence, and I went through a series of questions. I think I might have been like 4 years old or younger. And it was some sort of aptitude IQ test, and they were just trying to see where me and my brother were at, to also decide how they wanted to support us and what we best needed to receive the support to nurture our gifts. Which, first off, let me just say that how incredible is that my parents even did that. I think that their approach to that is incredible, and they're amazing. I know my mom is watching this right now, so shout out to you. My dad might be too, so shout out to you as well. Secondly, after they got me tested, I think I was in like the 99th percentile of intelligence, and they were like, oh my gosh, she's gifted, she's so smart, this is amazing, we want to nurture her and put her in the best schools, and oh, she's also musically gifted, we're going to nurture that, have her go into choir and we'll have her do musicals and like all these different things, and then, oh, she's really athletic too, oh, we'll put her in every single sport that she wants to try and do gymnastics and soccer and basketball and tennis and golf and all these things. So anyway, so that was my childhood, and how I'm perceiving this looking back. It seems like my parents wanted to support my gifts and put me in the right environment to flourish. And that led me to going to the best schools that I possibly could. And they were encouraging me to push myself and, do the hard things, be challenged, and get around the right people that I could learn from. And so that was me at a very young age. The common thing that I was taught and told, and many kids are taught this, is that you have so much potential to be anything you want to be, to do anything you want to do, and you have so much to offer the world. And at first, when you hear that, you're like, wow, that sounds amazing. What child wouldn't want to hear that? Versus, oh, you're nothing, you're going to amount to nothing, you're no good. Initially, one's positive, one's negative. But when you really think about it, I think that one of the most common mistakes that parents make is they tell their kids that they have full potential. One of the mistakes, let me say this again. One of the most common mistakes that parents make when they're raising their kids that they're not even aware of is that they say, you have so much potential. It would be such a shame for you to waste it. And why this is a problem, subconsciously, is that it teaches kids in that moment that if they don't do their best, if they don't strive for something amazing and do big things and make a big impact, that they are a failure. And if they don't reach this ambiguous full potential, that they've wasted their life. And it also gives the message that you are not good enough right now as you are. It means that you have to go out and do something. And wow, how much pressure and a weight is that to carry as you grow up, as you go through school, as you start to learn, as you start to experience life and figure out who it is that you are and what you want to do and who you want to be. And so I think that the intention behind that phrase is really good, because parents, authority figures, teachers, peers, when you say this to somebody saying, wow, you have so much potential, what it really means is that you're recognizing, wow, you are so amazing, you are so powerful, your essence is so pure. And what it comes across as, and how it's usually received, is, oh my gosh, if I don't prove myself, then therefore I'm not going to be valuable. If I don't show up, if I don't prove it to them, I'm not going to be loved, I'm not going to be accepted, I'm not going to be validated. And so it starts to create this subconscious belief of needing to always prove yourself, especially if you were taught at a young age that or told at a young age that you have so much to offer and you have so many gifts and like you're so incredible, you're so amazing because you know how to do XYZ, or you're really smart, or you're pretty, or whatever. And it, like I said before, it sounds really positive and supportive, and to an extent it is, because if you think about the alternative, if somebody were to say, you're no good, you're so stupid, you amount to nothing, you will never make it in life, that's also a story that we hold on to. And so especially when we're very young, at a young age, we get impressioned by our parents, by authority figures, by peers, by colleagues, whoever it is, friends at school. And we don't really know enough about ourselves yet. We're still figuring out this whole earthing thing. We're still figuring out how to be a human, that we take everything as truth. Now, I don't want to generalize either. There are some kids that are like very rebellious and saying, absolutely not, that's not what I believe, that's not who I am, that's not how I feel. But usually that happens and starts to come out like later in their childhood. Like, I want to say probably like in the 7, 8, 9, 10 range, maybe even a little bit older than that, after we start to assess the world around us and decide, what do we feel, what do we believe? So when we're very young, though, like primitive years, like from the time we were born until I want to say about 5 or 6, super impressionable. And so we have to really be mindful and careful about how we speak to very young children, because we don't realize often how much the words we say hold weight to them. And so I just ask you to be mindful around anybody in general, but especially around kids, about the things that you're saying. And also, we were never taught these things. Like, most people were never taught how to be a parent, how to deal with kids, how to speak to children. That's just not something that we were really taught. There's broad things like, oh, you don't want to swear around a child, or you don't want to use certain language or be derogatory, or we don't want to expose children to certain explicit things because it's just not appropriate. First off, who even defined what appropriate is versus not? That's something to still think about. But there's this common general rule of thumb that's either spoken or not. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, you just know not to say XYZ around a kid. Or, you know, their brains are still developing and I don't really know how much they're going to be able to understand or comprehend something. But anyway, all of this to say that my experience when I was a kid was that I was constantly praised for being amazing and doing really cool things, even if that was things I didn't really like. Like, for example, I grew up in a very golf-focused family. My brother was an incredible golfer, from the moment he could walk, and my parents saw his talent and wanted to support that. And they were like, hey, you have an amazing talent. We're going to nurture that. We're going to put you in the best, with the best coaches. We're going to get you into tournaments, and we're going to travel around the country to support you in that. Amazing. Like, and he loved it. He had so much fun and he was so good at it. And so me as a kid, his younger sister, I got dragged to all the tournaments, and I spent a majority of my childhood on the golf course. And my parents were like, oh, okay, if he's really good, maybe you could be really good too. They found out that I was and started to nurture me in the same way. The only difference is that he really enjoyed it and me not so much. Golf, to me, I was good at it. I was a natural athlete, but I didn't really find the joy in it. It's funny, if you were to ask my parents what was I like when I was on the golf course, they probably would say, oh, you would just skip around with your friends and just, or whatever girls that you were playing with, you would become friends with them, and you guys would just skip around and just be like, wee, and just like hit the ball randomly. And just chase the butterflies and like want to sing and like jump around. And I'm like, yeah, because that was me. Like, that's me expressing my true self. And I was just going to find the joy and fun in whatever I was doing. But golf wasn't the thing I was actually excited about. It was going to hang out with these new girls that I got to be friends with and be in nature. And there was even one point that I was like, I'm just so sick of this. I think I was in California, and I was playing in, I think it was Callaway Junior Worlds or Pepsi Little People, one of the golf tournaments there in Southern California. And I was in the bunker and I had hit a shot into the bunker. And for those of you who don't really know golf, that's the sandy area that is usually close to a hole, or often is close to a hole, but they have them throughout the golf course. So anyway, this is one particular next to the hole, and I'm trying to get it onto the green. And it was up a slope. And I remember hitting the ball, and it went right back down the hill. I wasn't able to get it over the little hump. And I was like, I'm just tired of this. Let's just get this ball out of here. So I think I hit it like 10 different times. And if you know golf, you know that each time you hit the ball, that's an added stroke. That's an added point on your scorecard, and you want to get the lowest score possible. So I'm just like, whatever. I don't care at this point. I'm just trying to have fun. I'm just like, let's just finish this so I can go to the pool afterwards and play and hang out with my friends and play High School Musical music and sing. And there was this parent of the girl who I was playing with against her. And he's just like tallying all my strokes, like, yep, okay, because he wanted his daughter to win. And my parents were there. I think it was my mom or my dad, one of the two. And they're like, oh my God, what are you doing? Stop hitting the ball. Stop hitting the ball. You're adding more points to your score. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, this doesn't mean anything to me. I don't hold the value in that. But anyway, kind of side tangent. But basically what I'm trying to say is they saw my talent. I had the talent, but it wasn't fun for me. I wanted to do other things, but I made the most of it because I was there. And so even if we're really good at something, it doesn't mean that we have to do it. And it doesn't mean that that's our purpose. It doesn't mean that that's the thing that we need to be spending all of our time doing and nurturing. And so I think that's one misconception often when we're kids is we have a really strong talent and we think that that's what we're meant to be doing, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. There might be other things that we really enjoy doing that we may or may not be good at that maybe we want to lean into more. And so, yeah. But fast forwarding then throughout my life, when I was in school and I was in art class, it was like, wow, Katie, you're so creative. You're so good at drawing or painting or singing. And so what would happen is when somebody would tell me, you're really good at this, what I interpreted that as, oh, that's where you see my value. And if I want to be in good graces with you, then that means that I need to be doing this thing that I'm really good at. And what happened as I continued to develop, I had this story in my mind of, oh, I need to constantly be proving my worth. I need to constantly be proving to others that I'm worthy and that I'm good and that I'm smart and I'm talented and capable. And also, I was also taught that you want to be self-sufficient and hyper-independent because you never want to depend on anybody else for your security and support. And I learned that mostly from my father. And that's something that I think is very valuable because it taught me how to be independent, and I am very self-sufficient and I know how to do things on my own, and I've developed the skills to be self-sufficient. And I think at the same time, it also taught me how to be hyper independent, meaning that I couldn't ask anybody else for help. I couldn't rely on anybody else because I had to do it for myself and I had to prove that I could do it. And so that was me kind of taking it to the extreme a little bit. And maybe this was just me being like, I wanted to do everything really well. So no matter what it is that I was taught to do, I wanted to give it my all and work really hard and prove that I could be the best at it. And in a way, it's kind of competitive, but at the same time, it wasn't like I was competing with anybody else. I was competing with myself and proving that if I could do this, then I could do the next thing. And yeah, so it helped me to build confidence. But I think like anything, more does not always mean better. And so I think that what he was trying to teach me was support yourself so that way you can have the freedom that you desire to live the life the way you want to live. And so how I perceived that was just on a different extreme. And so that's one example of how the things that we're taught as kids, we can interpret it differently depending on what else we were taught, what other stories we were holding on to, and what other subconscious programs we had that we developed for survival mechanisms. And so anyway, to keep going with this idea of proving self. So when it comes to where I'm at now in my life is I started to see that this was showing up in other ways. So kind of also still going back about my story, when I was younger, past the initial stages of development, I wanted to pursue singing in different ways. And that meant auditioning for plays, musicals, choir, a cappella groups, whatever, solos, parts. And their audition, the essence of an audition is that you are showing up and showcasing your talent, your skill, and therefore you are proving to whoever's judging that you are worthy of having the part, playing the role, being part of the group, whatever it is. You are presenting yourself and your value. And if I didn't get it, if I didn't get the part, if I didn't get the position in the group, it was tough. And I felt very, very sad. And there were some dark moments of, man, I thought this is what I really wanted. And if I didn't get it, I must not be good enough. I must not have performed well enough. And then you start to reflect, and I got really critical and saying, well, I screwed up at this part, or maybe it was the fact that I missed this note, or I wasn't energetic enough, or I didn't do this enough. And that was the constant conversation that I had in my head. Same thing happened in sports when I would try out for a sports team. Most of the time I would make it, but if there were times that I didn't make it on the varsity team, or I didn't get to be team captain, or I didn't get whatever, like the highest recognition, then it would weigh on me a little bit. And sometimes it would force me or push me to work harder. Other times it would cause me to shrink and want to give up and want to run away, depending on the situation. And then another example of that was when I was in school and I had to apply for programs. I had to apply to get into college, writing all the essays and taking all the tests. And I'm not the greatest test taker. Like, even though I'm very smart, I'm not the best test taker regarding their way of testing aptitude and all this stuff. So that weighed on me. And then writing the essays, there's always somebody critiquing it, and so on and so forth. And even getting into programs where I had to interview, there's a whole interview process. And so constantly I look at all this theme in my life of always needing to prove my worth, always needing to prove who I was to somebody else. And if they said that they didn't like it, or I wasn't accepted, or I wasn't ready yet, or I needed to work harder, or I needed to do more, I would internalize that, and it would crush me because I was associating my value with proving myself and being good enough and being accepted and liked and loved, because that meant that it was all conditional, really was what it was. It was conditional. If this, then that. If I get accepted into this group, then therefore I'm worthy of being there, and I'm worthy of love and acceptance and having all the things that I want in life. So fast forward to graduating from PA school and getting a job and working with patients, and then starting my own business and working with clients in new ways. This subconscious program of needing to prove myself and needing to be enough and needing to be worthy of that and prove my worth continued on. And what Lauren and I were talking about this morning, and what I've been reflecting on a lot lately, is realizing that that's a huge burden to carry. And I was starting to notice resistance to wanting to accept new clients into my space, and how I was subconsciously self-sabotaging that, because I was starting to feel burnt out and overwhelmed by needing to take on this role of helping people, because in my head, in my subconscious mind, taking on a new client who wanted to pay me to help them with their service or help them with their health, their life, whatever it was, and that they were going through, that meant that was another person I needed to prove myself to and prove my worth. And I'm looking back, why did I put so much pressure on myself? Why is that what's going through my head? And how is that changing the way that I'm showing up for the people that I want to serve? Because when I serve from a place of, I need to prove to them that I can help them get the results that they want, versus I'm going to show up as me, and I'm going to give them, as much time and attention as we talked about, and I'm going to offer my perspective and impart my wisdom and my skills and just hold that space for them to heal and be heard and seen in their own expression. It's a completely different energy when you're moving from a place of, I need to prove that I can help them. And if they don't get the results that they want, then that means that I failed, versus I'm just going to show up as me, and they came to me asking for guidance, and I'm going to do the best that I can. And I'm going to honor them, and I'm going to hold that space for them, and I'm going to help them to get to wherever they want to be as best as I can, and that's it. And I'm just going to be in service. Completely different energy. And so one of them is up here, and another is in here. And so I'm feeling lately in my life, I'm being called to deepen into my heart space even more and continue to trust my own guidance, my own wisdom, my own inner self, and the expression of that. And ultimately what that is me trusting God. It's me trusting the universe. It's me trusting myself, because I am an expression of God, as are you. And yeah, that feels so much better. It's like, oh, wow, I can just be me and show up in that way, and that's amazing. So I invite all of you to reflect and ask yourself, is there a place in my life that I am trying to prove myself to somebody else, and that's why I'm doing whatever it is that I'm doing? Or am I simply being of service and an extension of God's work? Where am I at? And so when it comes to being purely seen, and this is also why I'm doing this and offering this new way through YouTube, is it's a challenge to myself to see if I can just allow myself to be fully seen as my authentic self in every single capacity. And so that could look different depending on where I'm doing that in my life. And right now I'm focusing on doing that in content creation, and also how I'm showing up for my clients and being in service in the world. And that's enough. That's simply enough. And getting to be me and in my authentic expression is my contribution to the world. And that's amazing. So I leave you with that today in this segment, Purely Seen. Please feel free to write anything in the comments of what comes up for you. What was your childhood like? What were some of the things that you were holding on to as a kid that you were taught that you now have been holding on to as an adult, and it may or may not be serving you in some way? And I'll go deeper into, I think, another video talking about these subconscious programs that we hold on to. And this is something that I talk about in my group detox program, Pure Pathways Detox Transformation. It's a container that I help people guide them through detoxifying their physical body, their mind, and their spirit. So what that means is cleansing out the physical toxins that we pick up from our environment that we live in, parasites included, and then also mental shift. So retiring some of these unconscious beliefs that we hold on to and shifting the mind to see the world in a different way and offer a new perspective. And then also energetically and emotionally releasing the things that we're holding on to that might be keeping us stuck or in a lower vibrational state that are preventing us from living the best life possible that we have for ourselves. And, yes, kind of in a way, this fullest potential, but also realizing that you are already enough. And so we go through all this in the program. So if you're interested, we're doing round 3 starting in March, and I'd love to have you join us. So if you are interested in learning more, please let me know in the comments, and then I will also send you more information if you reach out to me specifically one-on-one personally. And yeah, so let's see what else. Please feel free to subscribe to this channel. I would love to continue to share what's coming through for me and would love to be witnessed by you. So subscribe to Purely Seen, and also follow me on Instagram by Catherine Rufino. I'll also be sharing some more tips and things there about my life. And then I also have a Substack publication where I post or send out weekly emails as a reflection of what I'm going through and what I'm learning in my life. And I also give different health tips and different perspectives on life. So it's called Pure Pathways Publications, and I'll also link that in the description below. I think that's it for now. So go forth and set the world on fire and enjoy being purely seen. So the light in me sees the light in you, and thank you.